This is our work sessions discussing of an ordinance regulating the operation and maintenance of solar energy facilities in Wayne County. Mr. Wood and Mr. Price.
I think each of you got sent the latest draft, and what I tried to do was, from the discussion we had at your last meeting, was make the changes. I've got them in there either underlined or marked through, and hopefully, if all these are okay and we don't need to change anything, we would be able to then ask you to schedule a public hearing. The changes that I've got on page 3 under section 5, paragraph E, added in where we have improved areas shall be at least 100 feet from any residence or church. It was the question about where we're going to measure from. We have measured from the principal building in a non-residential area. Improved areas shall be 50 feet. That should be, I left out the word 50. I left out the word feet there. From a residence or church, measure from the property line in the residential area. So in the out in a more rural area where there's not many houses, we would be measuring from the residence itself. If it's in a more built-up area, we'd be measuring from the property line. On the next page, we have under section 8, item C, it previously said the planning board may grant a variance to, and it said the fencing and or landscape requirement. We struck that out and just left it to these requirements. So the planning board may grant a variance for any part in here. And based on a recommendation from Mr. Parker, added in item E at the bottom of the page, appeals of the planning board's decision may be to the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. And this is something that we have in other ordinances, that the planning board is given authority to grant variances, that if the person requesting the appeal disagrees with the planning board's decision, they would have the opportunity to appeal to the Board of Commissioners. And I believe that's it. So unless someone else has a question.
These changes are coming from the recommendations from the planning board?
No, sir. These are recommendations that you discussed at your last meeting.
Okay, all right.
If you set your public hearing today, if you set it a month from today, we would have the opportunity to take it to the planning board at our meeting next week. Next scheduled meeting for the planning board is next Tuesday. And they would then have an opportunity to submit comments for your scheduled public hearing.
Is that your recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Connie go back to page 3, section 6, letter B?
I'm sorry, I skipped that one. Thank you, Mr. Gurley. At the end of that paragraph, adding in a sentence, plants or grasses shall be maintained by the facility operator to avoid overgrown appearance. There was some discussion at the staff level on whether you want to set a maximum height for that. As it is right now, the overgrown appearance would be a judgment call of the code enforcement official. If you set a maximum height of 12 inches, 20 inches, or whatever, he would still have to measure, but he'd be out there more with a ruler to measure. And so that's whichever wording you prefer, but that's sort of what we're on there. We've got it now, and it's a judgment call of left to a judgment call of the code enforcement officer.
I recommend that you make it specific in inches.
I agree. That way it takes any ambiguity out of it.
Right.
Now, would you recommend a height?
12 inches, 18 inches?
12.
Okay.
I mean, we don't expect it to be manicured like someone's front yard, but, a bush hog or whatever, that type of frail mower or bush hog or whatever, I don't have a problem with 12 inches.
Didn't this actually come up because we had a complaint of an overgrown
I
situation.
think it was more of one that actually was growing in the Mount Olive area.
Yes,
I'm not sure what they have down there, but this will at least take care of ours.
yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Darby.
And I really hate to bring this up, and I will,
Okay.
but I'm a little concerned with section 10 on enforcement. It kind of puts the burden, if they do not comply with this ordinance, it kind of puts the burden on the county to basically go to a court of competent jurisdiction in order to have an order issued, evidently, stating that they are not in compliance, rather than simply a fine. Why would we not just simply state that if it's deemed that you are not in compliance, as determined by the planning officer, that a fine may be imposed?
Well, of course, the previous section does mention a fine, section 9 there.
Okay.
Section 9.
It does, it really does. Okay, so there is a fine there. I'm
Yeah, so that
sorry.
would be our first
So
step.
section 9, so first of all, violation, there would be a fine.
We would go that step first, and then if they ignore
Or
that, then we-
imprisonment, oh my goodness, that's some serious stuff there, if you go to imprisonment, or both.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pate.
And maybe it's in here, I just didn't see it, but someone brought up, about solar facilities that join each other, and then you've got cross ditches and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And thought about maybe having to go above ground with the lines. Is that in here, or addressed in here anywhere?
Well, the places where we require underground is going from panel to the inverters.
Yeah, I was reading that on page 4.
But if they're going from the inverters to the road or to the connection with the street system, and they will be above ground, then they'll be above ground.
So if they
Now,
had needed to go across a
If
ditch.
they
or
go,
something.
if they need to be above ground to go across a stream, they'll be above ground.
Okay. I
We're
just
trying to
wondered.
have
Yeah. I knew that was a
as much
concern
of
by,
the
I
ground as we
can't
can, but
remember.
realizing that
last time somebody-
there's situations where you have to be above ground.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Adding to what Commissioner Pate was saying, didn't we also discuss that if, like, tree farmers, for example, beside each other, put their farm together, that they would not have to fence each individual farms? They could
Yes,
fence
sir,
it
I mean,
as
that-
a one parcel?
We would review it, if it comes in as one site plan, it may have multiple owners of the land.
Right.
But it comes in as one site plan, we'll review that as one site plan, look at the whole thing as one improved area, not as 5 different landowners.
That would be looked at as a variance or not?
That would be the way it would be in their site plan from view from the start. It would not be a variance. It would
Okay.
just be, we're reviewing site plans, not property owner tracts.
Okay, good. Thank you for clearing that up.
And there's the provision in here of a variance to be granted by the planning board.
Yes, sir, and of course, if one solar farm is established, and then later on, somebody comes in next to him and puts in a different one, but they're not connected together through the system, they're 2 independent farms, then we'd have to look at a variance or something along that second one going in, because it's sort of like it's ridiculous to have one fence next to another fence.
Exactly, yeah, yeah, okay.
I'm good. Pleasure to board.
Let's submit it on over to the planning board.
But if you like, I'd ask that you schedule a public hearing for the next, not for the next, for the November 3rd or 4th meeting?
That'll be the 5th.
5th, okay, I'm sorry, November 5th.
That's right, we changed the
You
date.
need a motion
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I moved to establish a public hearing on November the 5th, 9:15 a.m.
I have a motion on the floor that we establish a public hearing for the solar facilities in Wayne County on November the 5th at 9:15 a.m.
And let me ask one more thing, this may be, maybe Mr. Parker can clear, it may need to be part of your motion. In doing all of this, we've generally been discussing about solar farms going into areas that are not zoned. But we have some areas that are zoned around the airports, around the schools. and someone may own property in those areas and wants to establish a solar farm in conformance with these setback requirements. But it would currently not be allowed because it's not allowed as a permitted use in those zones. What I would recommend is that it be a permitted use in heavy industry, light industry, airport industry, community shopping, and airport. So if somebody has property in one of those zones, they can come in by right, just as they would if they were doing any other permitted use. In our residential zones, RA 30, RA 20, R15, R10, it would be a special use in those zones. The special use meaning that there may be some areas in those residential zones the solar farms may be appropriate for, some they may not. That's why you look at it on a case-by-case in the residential zones. And I believe in the other industrial and business zones, anywhere in those zones, it should be allowed. And so what we'll have to do is amend, as part of the public hearing process, amend the zoning ordinance to under the same public hearing, to add to the list of permitted uses.
Planning board has recommended that.
When we first started, that was the planning board's
This is a
recommendation
recommendation from the planning board.
several months ago, yes, sir. But we need to advertise that as part of the public hearing.
For what it's worth, I think that makes a lot of sense, because you basically are saying you want to protect your residential areas, but there may be areas where it makes sense to do it.
We do have some large areas that are zoned residential, and there's only a few scattered houses. It might be appropriate there, but it might not be appropriate next to where you've got 5 subdivisions in a small area.
Do you have an agricultural zone?
No, sir, we don't have that. We have, in county zoning, agriculture is allowed in every zone.
Sure.
So we have 2 zones that we refer to as residential agriculture 30, which is 30,000 square foot lots, and residential agriculture 20, which is a 20,000 square foot lot. And then we have 2 zones, R15 and R10, that are mostly just for residential purposes.
You want to amend it?
I'll amend to what Connie suggested. How about that?
Thank you.
You figure it out.
I have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, since Mr. Aycock, Chairman of Planning Board's here, I see you having comments about solar?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good.
Thank you for the planning board's input. No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand for the public hearing. Motion carries unanimous.
I think you'll be glad to get this off your plate.
Yeah, kind of said, what to do with
Item number 2, Connie, I think you're,
Yes, sir. I've had some discussion at the planning board about accessory buildings going into subdivision lots and into zoned areas. You've had a few Board of Adjustment meetings over times where someone has been wanting to put up an accessory building in their rear yard. They wind up starting before the building, before they got the permit, and they realized that's when they came and get the permit, they were too close to the property line. They were building it several feet off the line, and they thought that was far enough, but they find out after the fact they're supposed to be, in some cases, 25 feet off the line. What this amendment will do is amend the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance by allowing accessory buildings in rear and side yards to be within 5 feet of the property line. If an accessory building is still within, and I'll run through the memo I've got here. Firstly, we define what an accessory building is. We add that as a definition in our ordinance. We define what an accessory use is. We say that no accessory structures shall be located less than 5 feet from the wall of the principal structure. Structures located closer than 5 feet shall be considered as additions to the principal structure and shall conform to all applicable setbacks. What that is for is that if somebody comes in and puts in a carport right there off the end of their house, they would have to meet the same setbacks as the house would, as the principal building. But if it's set more than 5 feet away from the house, then it would fall under the accessory structures rules. trying to keep somebody from, what that does is if somebody has a house on a 100-foot lot, the house may be 70 feet long already, they want to add a 15-foot carport onto the end, they're going to be encroaching on the side yard. But if they sit it back behind the house, it would be okay.
Or if they move it over 5 foot,
Yes, sir.
then it would be okay.
That's correct. No accessory structure on a corner lot shall extend beyond the side building line of the principal structure. 5 feet from the rear and side line. The total size of all accessory structures shall not occupy more than 30% of the required rear yard. And then the following uses or structures shall be exempt from the setback requirements. Fencing and walls, mailboxes, plant material signs, any structure or improvement once installed that is at grade or less than a foot below grade, such as pools, satellite dishes, or any structure not requiring a building permit. So if this person comes in and puts in a small building in their backyard, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or somewhere and buy this building, and the size of that building is 10 by 10, then they don't have to get a building permit. They can put it on their property wherever they want to. What requires a building permit is if you have a length, width, or height that is 12 feet or greater. So if you have an accessory structure smaller than that, it would be exempt from these requirements.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor?
The side and rear lot line of 5 feet,
Yes.
I'm just sitting here thinking about 5 feet. That's not even enough room to get a lawnmower around it, to mow it. I mean, that's close.
Well, that's right. It is close, but that is part of the problems we have sometimes is people want it to be close to their side, just so they can get the lawnmower around there about one time, but not be 10 feet away. The current side yard requires 10 feet.
Say that again.
The side yard now in all of our zones and in subdivision ordinance, we require a 10-foot side yard.
Right. Seems a little more reasonable to me as far as mowing and so forth is concerned. I understand. I'm just wondering if we're gonna have problems with, a 54-inch, even Craftsman riding mower. It's, somebody's gonna have to do some weed eating.
One of the
That's what I'm
things
saying.
in trying to look at this and making it compatible, this is very similar to what is in the zoning ordinance for the city of Goldsboro.
Correct.
They have 5 feet in all theirs.
And this pertains just to an accessory building?
Yes, sir.
I mean, the actual dwelling
Yes.
has still got to meet the present
The principal
requirements.
house, your building, house, we still have to be 10 feet.
Or in addition to that.
Right.
Connie, one point of clarification. Do you measure the setbacks from the wall or from the eaves of the roof?
For the wall.
From the wall, okay.
Any other discussion?
Well,
Well,
this
just,
would-
I'm sitting here thinking about the grass. I was trying to vision some of the properties I have. I get push lawnmowers around those narrow places pretty good. My zero radius wouldn't get there. My red horse might not get there, but a push lawnmower get around there pretty good, so I think that's reasonable.
What this would require would be, since we'll be amending both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance by adding this in, it would require a public hearing on these items.
Mr. Doherty?
Going back to your discussion on getting a permit required for if you were actually site building, storage building, that would be 12 foot?
Yes, sir.
By 12 foot.
Yes, sir. That requires a building permit.
But that's not listed anywhere here.
Well, that's correct. But what I have in here, what's exempt is any structure not requiring a building permit.
I understand. So, I mean, that's just,
If it falls under the threshold of having to get a building permit, it would not fall under this accessory building threshold requirements.
That was anything greater than 12 high.
12, that's right. Either a 12 by 12 building, or 12 by 20, or 20 by 30, or whatever it may be.
That answers that question I have.
Is this, are these recommendations from the planning board?
Yes, sir.
also?
I think we discussed them at our, I believe it's the August meeting.
Pleasure of the board, did we set a public hearing?
I make a motion, we set a public hearing on it, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion on the floor, we set a public hearing, that also be November 5th. Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Cavardi's concern, and I like Connie's 5-foot setback. That's just best practices. You can build it or move it wherever you want to. You can make it 10-foot or 20-foot off of it. So we're not limiting anybody to putting it at 5 foot.
Just gonna plan ahead.
That's right. That's right. Little
Plan ahead
responsi-
for the size of your lawn.
Yeah. There's a little
Or-
responsibility in the homeowner.
Or go buy a push mower.
Yeah.
Right, but you're right, Mr. Gurley, this is, these are the minimum. If you want to set it 10 feet from the side, that's your call on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor that we set the public hearing for November the 5th, same time, 9:15?
Yes, sir.
If no other discussion, all in favor, sure sign the right hand. Motion carried. Outdoor advertising sign ordinance.
Hey.
Mr. Bryce, you have the floor right on.
Okay, I understand you had some discussion at your last meeting about that. Mr. Wood asked me to come and sort of bring you up to date, since all of you are newer to this board and then this ordinance is in place. So I thought I'd just sort of run through the ordinance and
Probably old as I am too.
talk about, how it got to where we are and if we want to leave it like it is, discuss changes or wherever. The ordinance was adopted by the county commissioners in February of 1989.
Thanks.
At that time, 117 South was a new highway from Goldsboro to Mount Olive, and from the area south of the fairgrounds up to the edge of Mount Olive. It is built as a freeway, which means there is fully controlled access. There's fence on both sides. You don't have any driveways along that stretch of highway. And until NC 44 opened earlier this year, that was the only freeway that we actually had in the county. Now, the stretch of 44 gets someday to be numbered as US 70 from 795 over to Wayne Memorial is freeway also. The entire highway from Rosewood to LaGrange will eventually be constructed as a freeway. The purpose of this ordinance, it states, is to preserve and improve the roadside appearance along highways in unincorporated Wayne County through the prohibition of outdoor advertising signs on freeways and the control of outdoor advertising signs on all other highways. These regulations are intended to minimize visual distractions to motorists, maintain roadside views of the rural countryside, to enhance the attractiveness of the area for residents and visitors, protect property values, protect the public investment in highways, and promote the overall economic welfare of Wayne County. Again, we prohibit the signs along freeways, on all other highways, US highways, NC highways. We regulate the spacing of them and the maximum size. This does say that the area within 1,000 feet of the highway on either side is what's regulated, so beyond that, a person theoretically could put up a sign at 1,050 feet. It could be seen from the highway, but it has to be a mighty big sign. We, under all highways that allow signs will be placed within 800 feet of a commercial or industrial use. So there has to be an existing commercial business, industrial use, using that highway, and then you can have a sign on either side of it within 800 feet. The signs have to be spaced, however, 1,000 feet apart along the highway. So you could have, going down the road, you could have a sign every 1,000 feet. The total area of the signs is 400 square feet. And this would be measuring the sign face itself. The maximum height is 50 feet. The sign face it can be no bigger than 10.5 feet by 40 feet. We require a 500-foot separation from churches and schools, a 300-foot separation from a residence. However, if the residents within that 300 feet were to give permission, then it can be closer. And you have to be 15 feet setback from the highway right-of-way.
Mr. Chairman, before we get too far away, can I ask Mr. Price a question on number 6, the 500 feet from churches, schools, and institutions, 300 feet from residents? Could you explain why that's a difference, the 500 feet and 300 feet?
I really don't know, other than that's what it is. The ordinance was done before I was here, and that's been a long time.
Well, then, the second part of that question, first, I would prefer everything being the same at 300 feet, but the second part of that question, if we're going to allow a 300-foot exception, why couldn't we allow for the other, for the
You're right,
schools,
yeah, I guess you could.
churches, et cetera?
There's no reason you can't. I mean, any of this can be subject to change.
Yeah. That's just consideration, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller.
since you opened up this, I've got a concern about the whole ordinance. I didn't realize how much of a concern I had until I went online and downloaded a copy of the North Carolina Department of Transportation Regulations and Control of Outdoor Advertising. And when I did that, I find that Wayne County is much more restrictive than the state of North Carolina.
That's correct. Along freeways.
No,
Well, along any highway. You're right.
along any highway.
That's right.
To give you an example, just a few of them, where you're stating that no outdoor advertising shall be located closer than 1,000 feet of any highway. In the state, it's 660 feet. When you say that the total area of the sign shall not be any more than 400 square feet, the state allows up to 1,200 square feet. And it's one right after the other that and not only that, but it's not even allowed at all on any freeway. Now, with all that said in mind, rather than going down this road of 6 months down the road like we did on the solar ordinance, I would like us to at least have a comparison chart of what our ordinance is and what the states are. And at bare minimum, I would like to at least bring ours in compliance with the restrictions of the state. And I think that would save us a great deal of time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Pat. And just to add on what he said, I totally agree. And I think it's nice to go down the road and look out at farmland and all that kind of stuff. But, what I do when there's a bypass around a city or whatever, unless I'm going to go there, I just zip right on through. So we're going to lose a lot of economic traffic if we don't allow our businesses in Wayne County to advertise. I came back from Newbern, and I said this the other day, and on either side, and then I saw it the other day coming back from Raleigh, that Wayne County businesses are having to go out of the county to put road signs up to advertise their businesses. And I think that's unfair, and I think we got to change it. And I like your idea, let's do a comparison with the state and see what we need to do to bring it in line. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I concur. I think it's a good idea. It saves us, certainly if we go with what the state has, if that's satisfactory for the state, it should be satisfactory to us. So,
I guess it's whether you want to lower yourself to their level or not.
such as how? Such as how?
Well, if you feel that what we're doing makes Wayne County a better place by having this ordinance, and you go with exactly what the state has, which is a lot less restrictive, then you may be taken away from Wayne County. Wayne County has something going for it by prohibiting the signs in certain places.
Well, I totally
I don't-
disagree with that
I do
statement
too.
because
I do too.
commerce is important for Wayne County. And if we are not going to allow our citizens or our businessmen to be able to advertise, to get people off of the freeways to actually come and buy some barbecue at Wilbur's or whatever, I think we're doing a disservice to our citizens. Billboards are actually, I mean, think about it. All of us travel a great deal, and when we go into areas that we're not familiar with, I mean, what do you hear in the car? Where's the next McDonald's, or where's the next gas station? And those billboards are informational more than anything else. They are not an unsightly thing anymore.
Well, one thing with what the state allows and with billboards, in lieu of billboards along highways, is advertising inside the right-of-way, that you can purchase the signs from the state. We've got a little old 795 up at Fremont, where the businesses there in town have a spot where it may say Capital Cafe, it may say Fast Break on those signs. Now, those are not regulated by this, those are regulated by the state.
You're talking about where it's like gas.
It says gas, food,
hotels,
motels, or whatever.
food, Things like that.
Well, there's other two things that we're not looking at here, and that is, one, what about the property owner that is not having income coming as a result of those leases? There's one. And number two, the county is not able to tax those signs that are provided by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, whereas property tax would be assessed on those signs, billboards. So there are some other factors that are in there that we need to look at as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I add to that,
Mr. Pate.
and, you know, in my area, my district, this is very true, you know, the road's gone through, that's a done deal, but there's, some of that property is almost landlocked, and these people have not only lost their farm property, but they're not even allowed to get in, you know, generate any income off a piece of property that's just sitting there they can't do anything with. So, you know, and I understand their, you know, what they're talking about, and we gotta make some changes, Mr. Chairman.
I got one question first. Mr. Price, when I was on the planning board, this was discussed several times. Has it been in any discussion with the planning board in the last few months?
So, sir, this ordinance has never been amended.
I was going to address that. Out of respect to the planning director and the planning board, and in the effort to expedite this process and hopefully improve efficiency, why don't you appoint a couple commissioners along with a couple of planning board members to resolve some of these questions and concerns?
Well, I'm gonna go even further than that. I mean, that's what we've got the planning board for. Let's let the planning board look at it and bring it back to us. This is nothing that's got to be done overnight, but I mean, that's the duties that we've, bestowed on the planning board. Let's let them look at it and come back with some recommendations and
And let us forward those concerns and questions we have to you before it comes back here, so those can be resolved.
And that freeways go up and start opening in a year or so, we don't need to keep going.
well, I mean, I just think that we need to get some, you know, and the planning board meets, what, next week?
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's nothing they got to act on, but let's give them a few days to come up with their thoughts, because like you said, like Mr. Gurley said, or Mr. Price said, this ordinance has not been amended since, what, 89? 89. I mean, and, you know, and times change, you know. We're certainly not criticizing the ordinance, but, you know, times change. Whoever thought that we'd have another bypass around Goldsboro, we'd have a 795. Let's let the planning board address it and come back with some recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
I agree with that. One of the things about talking about the state advertising, that you see the little ones on the post. My experience, if you go down 95, you're running 70, 75 miles an hour.
You go
You're gonna, well, whatever your speed is, you have passed that whole conglomerate of little small signs lined up in a road, because you can't read them fast enough. You cannot see which area is which, what exit it is, until you get right on it. The businesses need to have the option, and this is what I look for. If I want to eat at Cracker Barrel, it may be on that sign 3 miles down the road, but I'm looking for that big one that says Cracker Barrel exit so-and-so. That's what I'm looking for. And I see this as being a real hindrance to the municipalities of Fremont and Pikeville in particular, and probably Mount Olive, and Goldsboro, if we cannot advertise along these interstates and so forth. So I really believe that the business should have the option to do something, whether it's the size of what the state recommends or what, but we need to have something in place, I think.
I'm gonna put it in form of a motion that the planning board looks at it and bring something back to us at our November the 5th meeting. I don't think it'd be doing them justice to require it for the next October meeting, but is that acceptable to let them look at it and come
They
back
will
at
just
the...
meet one time between now and then.
Could you make it, I'm just saying, since you never make it the December meeting, that'll give us 2 meetings to work on.
Yeah, that'll work.
I mean, is that everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make
That's
a
fine.
motion to turn it over to the planning board to come back with some recommendations at our first meeting in December. Mr. Doherty.
Under discussion. Is it my understanding that we're talking about only those properties that are in the county, not zoned by municipalities?
Correct.
So municipalities as such can exercise their own billboard ordinance
Goldsboro.
and have them all over the place. It's just a matter that in the county is what we're talking about.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell them what the city just...
Well, the Goldsboro prohibits billboards along freeways. So
Well, there'd be more
But
for
they
us.
they just adopted that, correct?
yes.
Okay.
They're probably unadopted.
They probably will.
Well,
Mr.
I think, I'm glad to hear that we bring discussion up, because I think all the municipalities need to have a chance to have some input in this. I won't think about them making their own ordinance rule, but I was in a presentation one time early when the roads were being talked about, and the gentleman did say, be careful that you don't let the traffic bypass your town. And I think the businesses and the municipality, people who are responsible for getting taxes into the coffers, would love to give an opportunity to hear this. I think December will give us time to interact with those folks.
Okay. Any other discussion? I have a motion on the floor. Have you got the motion down, Marshall? All right. All in favor of the motion, should sign right hand. Motion carries.
Thank you, Connie.
Do we need to go back in closed session?
Yes, sir.
We need to go to lunch.
Yes, sir.
Where's the nearest lunch?
Well, we can do the comments, but
Getting it out of the way. All right, the manager's comments?
Who's not here?
Mr. Chairman, I've got several. First of all, I just wanted to make the board aware that our Services on Aging Director, Erin McAuliffe, lost her mom on Sunday. So I wanted y'all to be aware of that. Erin is down in Florida. That's where the family's from. And so our thoughts and prayers are with her, and please continue to keep her in your prayers. I also got word this morning that our in-home aid coordinator for the same department, Services on Aging, Ms. Ruth Hoffman, she was a part-time employee for us, worked with us for over 20 years. She passed away this morning. So that department is really being hit. So I wanted to make you aware of both of those. On the Assistant County Manager position, that has closed. The application period is closed. I got 51 applications. I have finally waded through all of them as of last night, and we're setting up interviews now on that position. So it'll probably be 2 or 3 more weeks before I'm able to make a decision on that. But we are progressing on that. For those of you who weren't at the meeting yesterday, we had the kickoff meeting for the jail. and that went very well. We met from about 3 to 5:30 last night. It was a very good meeting with the Mosley Architect Group, and I think we're off and running. Several of y'all may have comments on that because you were at the meeting, but I thought the meeting went extremely well. We will be having a meeting with the Ag Center architect, I think, later this week, Bill, if I remember correctly. Wednesday, okay. And the other thing that we're working on right now is the fire contract renewals. The fire contracts expire October 31, so we're going to try to have those back to you by the next meeting. And we're in the process of working through that with the Wayne County Firemen's Association Board and also the chiefs on that. So, I think we have one more meeting scheduled on that, so hopefully we'll have everything ready at the next meeting for you to sign off on that.
Do we have a final draft completed?
It's on the
Yes.
it's on the website.
It is, okay.
Yes.
I'll get it.
Yes. But if you want a hard copy, we can do that as well, Bill.
Let me make a quick comment on that also. We met with the executive board of the Firemen's Association and kind of got their blessings, but felt like that it needed to go before the Chiefs Council, which is one representative from each department, either the chief or the chairman of the board, and that meeting is scheduled for this coming Monday night. And we wanted their input before. We got a final draft, but we still wanted their input before anything else was finalized, and that would give us enough time to bring it back before this board at our last meeting in October.
And I think those are the major things. There's a few other things we're working on, but those are the major things.
Okay. Commissioners' comments? Mr. Bell?
Yes, had a meeting with East Point last week, and they're still working on the 36 county expansion, which is in negotiation right now, having a lot of problems getting agreements. Nobody seemed to want to agree too much on certain things. I can't go into detail because it's not public yet what they're discussing about. And we was informed also that the state did cut some of their funding, so they do have shortfall, especially in the area of transportation and stuff like that. Other than that, everything's going pretty good from the mental health standpoint. I'm not going to talk about the jail because the county managers just talked about that. That's going well, I will say that much. And we should be proceeding as soon as possible on what we came up with yesterday. Thank you.
Mr. Page?
I won't say a whole lot about jail, but we did go on those jail tours to Jacksonville and to Cumberland County, and I thought that was very informative, especially the gentleman in Jacksonville that spoke to us. It gave us some really good ideas, some insight. 25th, I attended a Patriots Coalition meeting, and of course, they're taking care of, along with several of the members of the Veterans Advisory Board who were there, discussed the Veterans Parade, which is going to be on November the 11th. And we will be meeting again on October the 23rd at noon, and we're going to use the OES boardroom because early voting is going to be going on at the Veterans Service Office, and we will need a public notice for this one because it will be a Veterans Advisory Board in coordination with the Patriots Coalition. October 23rd, 12 noon, OES. I told Vic this morning when I saw him, I said, I'll take care of it, Vic. Okay. Last Thursday, I was in Raleigh at the Agriculture Steering Committee, and what we were discussing were the proposed goals that came forth from all the counties on agriculture issues. And we went through those and spent nearly the whole day going through that, and we will be submitting our choice. I think we picked 4 out of that group to submit on to the full executive board. And we will be discussing that on Friday and Saturday because I will be down in Wilmington at Riceville Beach because we have an executive board meeting down there. and we'll be putting all of them together. So I don't know whether we'll finish or not, because I know we got another meeting in January. That's to prepare to send to our legislators what our wish list is going to be. Looking forward to that. And Sunday, I had an opportunity, was invited, and Mr. Mayo and Mr. Cromartie were there. We went to Seven Springs Baptist Church for the Law Enforcement Day, and all law enforcement was there. Sheriff was there, some of his deputies, Goldsboro Police Chief and some of his staff, and Lenore County, Duplin County, and I hope I hadn't missed anybody who was there. And of course, we were all recognized, and it was a really good service, and I think we all enjoyed that. And the little kids down there that got up and sang, it was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. I'm telling you, it was something else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Martin.
Thanks, sir. I had an opportunity to attend one of my committees that I serve on, the WISH committee, and I had a couple of chances to find where it was. It finally located at the hospital in one of their meeting rooms, and good to come in contact with some folk who had been making some inroads to better health in Wayne County. Dr. Taylor, who's been on many boards that I've served on, and matter of fact was on the Goldsboro City Board of Education when I came to this county. And he and I worked on a project back in 1989 serving young females. So it was good to be back in that environment with that group. Also, the only other, I went to the same church function that Mr. Pate talked about, but prior to that, I had an opportunity to represent the board and substitute for our chairman at the NAACP annual fundraising banquet, I think they call it. And I had listened to a very interesting speaker who's a lawyer, who does quite a bit of business in Raleigh and is he's the attorney that represents what they do in the causes that they have. But his topic was where we are coming from, where we are, and where we're going. And that was just an interesting conversation to hear, just about society's movement through time. So that was a very interesting session, Mr. Chairman, and I enjoyed representing, standing in for you anyway. But that was probably the extent of the official things that I did. But just to say one thing about the church function that we went to, very interesting, one of those uplifting, everybody's singing, and you almost was embarrassed not to get up and sing, but you had to be careful not to mess somebody up standing next to you. But it was real nice, so I enjoyed it also. Thank you.
You heard me behind you.
Right.
Mr. Gurley.
First, everyone met Mr. Fred Fontana, Gateway's director, and I would like to also say that we're making progress in the Gateway area. And like everyone's mentioned about the jail visits, the only thing I ask the committee, encourage you to continue aggressively with this project. And Commissioner Aycock and myself, along with NC House Representative John Bell, met with DOT officials and local residents Highway 70 area last week about some concerns with the new traffic patterns from the new construction of Highway 70 West. And I'm happy to report DOT listened to us, and they've agreed to make some changes to traffic patterns to help local residents through this new construction process. And mentioned the Busco area. I get calls often about some of the properties that we have not being maintained, so just make sure we get that list that we can emphasize that it's presentable to everyone. I serve and represent probably the majority of the area of the Neuse River Basin, and I get the majority of the calls, I'm sure. And to Connie Price and Michael Aycock, Chairman of the Planning Board, your mission is you're faced with the future and growth of Wayne County, and it seems like you're always getting beat up on by us, but I'm here to support you. You do a great job, and we just got to continue pushing forward. And last, Mr. Aycock, and y'all go deeper in this with the University of Mount Olive tour last week, It was great, great institution. They got a lot of new projects going on down there, new construction, new program areas. It's a wonderful place. And just as important to me, they have an outstanding athletic program down there. So rather than driving to Raleigh or Durham or Chapel Hill, there's some local sports down here at Mount Olive. Or Greenville, yeah. There's some great athletics in Mount Olive. They've got the legendary Carl Lancaster baseball coach down there. He's won a championship or two down there. So good place to go visit and some entertainment. Thank you.
Well, I had 25 items, now I'm down to 2.
Tell me about your years playing in Mount Olive.
No, you told us that already.
You don't want to go there. Wayne County Development Alliance Director interviews are going well. I think we're going to have somebody in place in the next 45 to 60 days. And we've had to delay it because we've had a problem getting some of the applicants to schedule to come. So we've had to we've lost about 2 or 3 weeks here in doing that. But we're on the verge. The other thing that's really been busy, and it's going to be busy, is our efforts from this commission board and the county to work with Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, but most of all, sort of keep an eye on what's going on the state and federal level, that we don't get blindsided on not wind farms, but wind farms, like we did in Dare County, trying to make sure that we have lobbyists in place to protect us. I was at a meeting this past week. It's called AICUZ, AICUZ, and it was at the Chamber of Commerce. And what this means is Air Installation Compatible Use Zone. Well, what does that mean? Well, what it is, it's a collaboration between the city and the county and the base. What they do is they look at things that concern the residents of Wayne County, like, for instance, their comfort level, safety and protection. The base is interested in keeping the residents of Wayne County safe in their everyday operations. And that's what this was about. It's already been mentioned about the jail tours. There was a base community council meeting at the Goldsboro Country Club, and we heard updates. I think one of the highlights of the week was that on base on the 26th, I attended a presentation at the theater out there by Dr. Coit Hargis. He is the Deputy Director of Internal Affairs and Foreign Policy Advisor to the Commander of Air Combat Command, Langley Air Force Base. This guy is up there. He knows his stuff. Been in it a long time. And some of the things that we talked about were on the borderline of being classified. But the point is that due to the current state of affairs in the world, this was definitely a timely and very informative presentation. I really enjoyed going to that. Also, I attended a meeting of the Ag Committee this week. Also, I went on the tour of the University of Mount Olive, where I played baseball. Bill, but since 1966 when I was there, that campus has been through an amazing transformation. There was only one building there, and that was the Henderson Building in 1966. No dormitories, no nothing. We ate at the old high school downtown lunchroom. And so, and it was a 2-year school back then. Now it's a university. And I was thoroughly impressed every year when I go to visit Mount Olive, how God has blessed that college and growth. 900 and some students enrolled, was that right? Yes. I think we had probably less than about 75 when I was there. But at any rate, it's, and not only that, but contributing very well, but very much to Wayne County and surrounding counties. And by the way, other states. We have students coming to Mount Olive from other states. So, great tour. Also, this past Sunday, I was at the Spring Creek Baptist Church on the Law Enforcement Recognition Day, and firemen, emergency personnel, and elected officials. And overall, the recognition was great. We all got a certificate, but I agree with Bill and Commissioner Camardi that the service was what made it. They had, those kids were absolutely, you could tell somebody was spending some time with those kids because they could sing. You know, I have to pantomime a lot. You know, I'm not a very good singer. But the whole service was just heart-touching to me. That's all I have. Oh, by the way, I was on the kickoff with the jail, but that's already been talked about. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I think we all learned a great deal when we visited Cooperative Extension at the Wayne Center right after our last meeting. And a special congratulations to Cooperative Extension on celebrating 100 years of service. That's 100 years. That's a long time. We were all pleased to hear the progress made with our congressman in supporting designating the designation of US 117 from I-795 to I-40, as well as adding US 70 to Morehead City as future interstate highways. Now that's big news, folks. That's big news. We need to keep up, though, making calls to our representatives in Congress and urge them to pass this bill sooner rather than later. There's no question that interstate highways bring the jobs and improving economy for every area that is served by interstates. So we need those interstates here. I continue to learn a great deal as we explore the best solutions for our overcrowding jails. By visiting two more counties, Cumberland and Onslow, it gave us a great deal of insight. You know, we have now set that as our top priority of ending jail overcrowding and spending this almost $1 million a year to house inmates outside the county. The Gateway Board. I'm a new addition on the Gateway Board, but we met on the 25th and heard updates and suggested upgrades on improving transportation services here in Wayne County. And I am pleased to report that as of last Monday, DSS staff is now keying in the authorized rider information directly into the web-based program at Gateway for them to more efficiently schedule rides. And that is important because effective use of personnel saves county tax dollars. Mr. Fontana is recommending and I am supporting the purchase and installation of tablets in every rural vehicle to improve efficiency. This also will track the location of each vehicle continuously in our county. That will help us as we're scheduling rides throughout the county to find nearby vans that can be redirected to pick our residents up. A lot more efficient operation. I think the cost of that, Joe, if I recall, was around $27,000, and that would be offset by eliminating one position. So it would almost pay for itself within the first year. The University of Mount Olive did host all of us for the tour and an informational meeting last week. I think we all need to pause and recognize just how important the University of Mount Olive is. not only for providing educational benefits to Wayne County and eastern North Carolina, but also what it adds to the economy. There's a lot of dollars that flow through the University of Mount Olive, and it is a vital asset for Wayne County. Last Thursday, I attended a gathering hosted by the National Association of Counties. I hope we all recognize that NACO, N-A-C-O, our national organization of county commissioners, actually has funded a program to improve Wayne County health. And it was a very important and informational meeting. I think a lot of you had to be at other meetings last Thursday. But it was really informative. We had close to 50 people that attended that meeting from across Wayne County. And we broke out into group meetings. And from that, we were able to develop a great deal of several points that will improve healthy Wayne County tax force by getting more citizen participation. You know, we've got the program in place. We need now citizen buy-in, our industries and our companies here in Wayne County to help us improve Wayne County's health. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. I have a few comments. I would like to thank, and this has been a busy 3 or 4 weeks since our last meeting. I have not been able to attend all of the events because they overlap. But I do want to thank the board members that went to events that I could not attend. I really appreciate y'all representing the county. And it's already been mentioned, at our last meeting, we did go and have lunch over at the Wayne Center commemorating the 100th anniversary of the corporate extension, and that was really informative. Also, attended the Wayne County Farmers Association meeting at Little River. Chief Aycock, a very good meal, good meeting. Appreciate your hospitality. Also, on September 17th, some of us met with the town officials at Eureka concerning their sewer issues. Had a real good meeting on that. The county has kind of got involved a little bit on helping them do some of their testing and all, and I understand that the test results, most of them are back, and they did find several issues.
Right.
But it was a very good meeting, and I think the town officials of Eureka were very appreciative that we got involved in helping them with that situation. Also on September the 18th, I attended Diversity Day with the city, made a few short comments. Very good meeting. On the 19th, I had the pleasure of going out to Seymour Johnson for the POWMIA Recognition Day. Very good. I think the highlight, we had a good speaker and good participation from the base and the county and the city, but the highlight was when those 4 F-15Es flew over and the one peeled off for the missing man formation. I mean, if that don't hit your heart and give you goosebumps to know that there's men and women that are still missing, sacrificed so much. On September 24th, we had the jail tours in Cumberland County and Onslow County, and that was very informative, especially the one in Onslow County. We learned a whole lot on what not to do. September 25th, we had a Base Community Council sponsored by the city. That was good, good turnout. Also, I'd like to mention I did attend the Wayne Regional Fair several times. I think other than maybe one night they had a washout, but other than that, I don't know what the attendance was, but I understand that they had a real good turnout. Also did part of the tour at the University of Mount Olive. I had to get there late. I had a doctor's appointment, but I did get there in time to eat. But I do appreciate the University of Mount Olive and for the tour that most of you, or the presentation that they gave. Also, on October 2nd, we went to, several of us went to Raleigh and met with Diener concerning the windmill issue down at Dare County Bumming Range, and I think that was a real good meeting. I think they pretty much established how we feel in Wayne County. I won't go into no detail, but I think they had a different outlook after we left than when we got there. Also, the kickoff meeting for the jail yesterday, I attended that, and we got some real good information. I think that we were pleasantly surprised that maybe we can get this facility, the process started and finish it a little quicker than what we thought. Also, just this morning, I stopped for breakfast a minute and had a individual that does business with the county and also does business with Gateway. And right out of clear, he made a comment to me that it's pleasant to do business with the new director of Gateway. He's on top of things. He's very dollar cautious, questioning some of the things that are being done on the Gateway equipment. And this individual was very complimentary on because he's a taxpayer in Wayne County also, very complimentary on the new director. Also, I've already hit on it, but I want to hit on it real quick. Thursday afternoon out at the hospital from 6 to 8, the kickoff for cancer awareness for not only breast cancer, but prostate cancer also. They're trying to hit on the two cancers that affect the breast cancer, mostly women, prostate cancer, mostly males, and they're kind of joining them together this year to concentrate on both of them. But it's be open to the public, and like to have everyone out that could attend. And that's basically what I have. Anyone else have any other comments? If not, Mr. Parker, you have anything?
Yes.
Let's break for lunch, and we'll come back and do the rest of our closed session.
Okay.
Where are we gonna have lunch?
Where we gonna have lunch, Marcia?
Okay, well, we will be done. I only have those two things.
That's all we got left, is just the closed meeting.